Hello everyone and welcome to a really incredible game from a really incredible match of the quarterfinals of the Speed Chess Championship. It is Wesley versus Alireza Firouzja, and this is the Armageddon game, and it was, as I understand it, the longest game so far of the Speed Chess, the longest match so far of the Speed Chess Championship. Here you can see all the scores through different time formats. So first, Wesley started with an incredible 7-2 in the 5+1 section, which is very hard to catch up to, as it's a 5-point difference. And then Alireza retaliated in the 3+1 section with the same result: 7 wins to Wesley's 2 wins, and the score was equal. So one could draw the conclusion that maybe as the time format gets lower, Alireza gets stronger. But no, when it came to bullet, the 1+1 section, the result was 4.5 to 4.5. So again, the match was equal. They went into tie breaks, and in the tie breaks, 4 games were played, and the score was 2 Alireza and 2 for Wesley. So 15.5 each, and now it's time for Armageddon. Wesley got the white pieces, and that means that Wesley gets the full 5 minutes, whereas Alireza, he gets 3 minutes and 40 seconds. I think it's 3 minutes and 39 seconds to be exact. So as usual in Armageddon, Wesley has to win in order to win the match, and Alireza is more than happy with a draw. So let's see what Wesley goes for. He started with pawn to e4. We have pawn to e5, knight f3, knight to c6, and now bishop to c4, going for the Italian game. Knight to f6, the 2 knights defense, and now pawn to d3. So the standard modern bishop's opening, bishop to c5, castles by both of them, and now pawn to a4, grabbing more space on the queen side. We have pawn to d6, and now bishop to g5 can be played. c3 is the most common move here. Sometimes some other moves are played, but very rarely. But the move Wesley played is bishop to e3, and it has never been played before. So as of move 7, we have a completely new game. Okay, how can Alireza deal with this? He can play something like a6 to make room for the bishop. He can capture on e3, or he can try and keep the tension with bishop to b6. So that's what he did, and now Wesley played knight b to d2. We have pawn to h6 and c3. Both of them have to play really fast because in Armageddon there is no increment. So we have knight to g4, challenging the bishop here, and now Wesley has to trade, otherwise knight captures, bishop will occur. So bishop captures on b6, a captures on b6, and now Wesley strikes in the center with d4. So in these Giuoco Piano type positions, it's very, very hard to look for advantage. But on the other hand, if you play one move that looks okay but is not, your entire position just collapses. And okay, he does have the sort of a ruined pawn structure here on the queen side, but he does have the semi-open file for his rook. So rook to e8, now adding another defender to e5, and the rook to e1. We have knight back to f6 by Alireza, and now bishop to b5. Here, the question is, can you play b4? b4, of course, is a move you always want to play, but if you play it a bit too early, you might run into e captures on d4. And now, okay, how do you deal with this? You have to play queen to b3. First, you have to put pressure on f7, and only after Alireza deals with this, let's say captures and captures, you're going to recapture on d4. And now, okay, you have this very nice position. You're threatening d5, probably rook goes back to e8, and you continue with having a4 and b4 played. But Wesley wants to keep the tension. He doesn't want to do any unnecessary trades, even of pawns. And bishop to d7. Now the threat, of course, is d5, and you will blunder material here. So you have to defend bishop to d7. Now comes pawn to h3, and now knight to e7. Alireza offers a trade of bishops, as the more he trades down, the easier it will be to draw the game. Bishop captures, knight captures, and now knight to f1. Wesley's knight is looking for some squares on e3 and g3. In the future, you are, of course, looking at the f5 square. So knight to g6, we have knight to g3, and knight to f6. Very nice opposition of the knights. Queen to c2, and now queen to d7. Now the queen is very strong here. The rooks are connected, and you are putting pressure on that a4 pawn. So Wesley, one thing he cannot do is move the queen. So here Wesley plays pawn to c4 with ideas of maybe advancing even further in the center with d5. And Alireza could play something like knight to f4, but he goes for knight to h7. Now the knight can come to g5, the knight can come to f8, all depends on what Wesley plays. We have queen to d2, and here comes the first mistake of the game. When I was watching this, I wasn't sure if this was actually a mistake because, well, it's Wesley and the queen is being remaneuvered over to the the king side, but he does blunder the a4 pawn. And later, after the game, he admitted that he has overlooked this. So Alireza, of course, grabbed it, and now not an automatic recapture. First pawn to b3. At least get something for your sacrifice material. Now you have a very nice center here. Rook to a6, not going for trades, and now d captures on e5. Of course, pawn cannot capture as the queen on d7 would hang, but knight can capture. And now we have knight to d4. Now this knight has the option of going to f5 as well. This knight can come to h5, and you can put some pressure on black's position. So knight back to f6, and now rook a to d1. Knight to g6 by Alireza, and now we have knight d to f5. The knight now finally lands, and you do have some threats here of maybe knight captures on g7. Not right away, but even if you play something like, let's say, rook e to a8, and you allow knight captures on g7, it's still not crushing, because after king captures and you, for example, go knight to f5 with check, king to g8, and queen captures on h6, you do not get to checkmate black because there's knight e8. Now the checkmating square is defended, and after h4, preparing h5, you can even play queen to e6. So h5, let's say knight goes back to f8, and the position still holds. So you have to be very careful, but you know, if you play a really silly move and allow this, then it should work. However, rook to a5 was played. Alireza says, all right, even if you sacrifice a knight, then when the other knight lands, I'm just gonna give up the rook for the knight. So here we have pawn to f4. b4 can also be played, but I mean, b4 can be played in any position. So pawn to f4, preparing to further expand. Now, if you sacrifice, you can even start with some f5, e5 ideas. And here we have queen to c6. Both of them are playing very fast, and the situation on the clock is 2.5 minutes for Wesley, and something close to 1.5 minutes for Alireza. So he's still down 1 minute on the clock, and I have to remind you, there is no increment here. Now, instead of this queen to c6 move, you might be thinking, why not just capture this? And then the knight here is left defenseless if you recapture with the knight. Point is that now Wesley has knight captures on h6. It comes with check, so you would ruin the pawn structure and only then recapture on e4. So that's why after f4, queen to c6 was played by Alireza. We have king to h2, and now finally knight captures on e4. And now, of course, the queen is being attacked, so you could move it to b2 to threaten checkmate, but Wesley plays queen to d4. He threatens checkmate here, and Alireza just brings the knight back. So he won back the pawn, not won back. He's now up 2 pawns, and Wesley has to create something out of nothing, basically. And knight captures on g7 still doesn't work. If you play knight captures on g7 now, there's the incredible rook to a2. That's one of the reasons also why Alireza put the queen on c6. Now checkmate is being threatened, and there's no good way to handle this. If you just play something like this, then you just trade. You don't really care. You trade everything, captures, 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 and then only at the end of the line you will capture on g7, and you will be up a full knight. So after knight to f6, rook captures on e8, check was played, and now everything is perfectly fine if Alireza captures with the knight. You capture with the knight and you defend checkmate here. However, after rook captures on e8, Alireza played queen captures on e8, and remember what we just discussed. What was the queen doing on c6? Keeping that in mind, feel free to pause the video and win the game for Wesley while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on finding this incredible line. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is knight captures on g7. But knight captures on g7 alone will not do it. So congratulations if you found it, but you also have to see the second move of the variation, as now you have to capture it. If you don't capture, then just queen captures on f6 and you get destroyed. So king captures, and now comes the move that actually wins the game. Not knight captures on g7. That's only, you know, starting the line. But the move is, of course, pawn to b4. And this incredible move now completely cuts off the rook from the 5th rank. And once the rook leaves the 5th rank, then, of course, knight is coming to f5 or h5. So you have to put it something. Rook to a2 was played, but now you don't have the queen here. So rook a2 does not come with tempo, and now comes knight to f5 check, and you could easily ruin your masterpiece here, because if knight to h5 check, which seems like it should also be winning, is just not, because after king to f8 and queen captures on f6, you can play rook captures and g2 check. That's the problem. And after king captures, there's queen to e2 check, and you have enough checks and enough squares to ensure a perpetual. King can come to g3, queen e3 check. Even if king comes to g4, you just repeat. There's no, of course, you now you have to go back, and it's a repetition, because if you go to f5, then knight to h4 check, and your king has no squares. You're gonna have to capture with the queen, and then queen to e6 is checkmate. So that's a huge problem right there. So instead, after rook to a2, Wesley finds the correct continuation, and that is knight to f5 with check. And now, where do you go to? Alireza played king to f8. The only real try here is king to h7, but it just looks so weird putting your king here. Point is that after king to h7 and queen captures on f6, you have queen to g8. And now you still are threatening some tricky moves here with some rook captures on g2. To give you an example, if white plays a rook to e1, of course you want to get that rook up the board to go for some rook lifts, like rook to e8 will, force just a win. The queen has no squares, and then you're going to checkmate the black king. Now rook captures on g2 check is actually a great move. If king captures, you're going to play knight to h4 check now, nicely connect with the knight here, and once the king moves, you will now go for a king hunt. Queen to g2 check, king e3, queen captures with check will connect nicely with the knight. You're going to win the knight, and you're still going to try to defend this. White is still much better, maybe even close to winning, but you have a chance. Of course, defending with the king doesn't work because you just get checkmated. Queen f3 check, king to d4, c5 check, and once the pawn is recaptured, it will be checkmate. So that's the problem here. After knight to f5 check, only real try king to h7, but Alireza played king to f8. Remember, we are talking seconds on the clock here for Alireza without increment. Queen captures on f6, now threatening checkmate, as the knight also covers the e7 square. So queen to e2, freeing up the square for the king and threatening checkmate on g2, and now queen to d8 with check. Alireza goes back, and Wesley goes back. Queen to f6. Alireza goes back again. There's just no good move here. And now Wesley realizes that, okay, he could just flag Alireza. That's also allowed, but Wesley is a true gentleman, and he goes for the actual winning move. So queen to d8 check, queen to e8, now queen captures on c7. And now if you repeat, it doesn't matter. Then another check lands, and then the d6 pawn hangs with check, and then you're just up too much material, and you can just even trade queens to win this. So here, rook captures on g2 check was played, king captures, and now knight captures. The problem with queen to e2 check, of course, is that after king to g3, no more checks, and checkmate is being threatened, so you can't really do anything with the queen there. So Alireza had to try knight captures on f4 check. We have king to g3, and now knight to h5 check, king to f3, and he was in this position on move 40 that Alireza Firouzja resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. Wesley is completely winning, and for those of you who enjoyed when I finished the game, the easiest way would be, if you even manage to find the move for black, because there just aren't any, you could play something like king g8. Now comes rook captures on d6. Of course, now you're threatening to win the queen, and if you move the king, then you just get this checkmate. Rook captures on h6 check, king g8. Now you play any move, and the black is in total zugzwang, and after you make one move, knight e7 check, king f8, for example, and rook to h8 will be checkmate. It's only one of the nicer ones, but like I said, absolutely everything wins here. So yeah, it was pretty crazy stuff here. That after Alireza comes back from a 5-point deficit, then he equalizes. Then 1+1, it gets equal for 4.5 points each, and then another 2 points each in the tie breaks, and then. I mean, you've seen the game. Wesley is just so strong in the Giuoco Piano, and he found, like, even after blundering that pawn, he found the crucial move. And like I said, rarely will you win a game in the Giuoco Piano without playing pawn to b4. He didn't play it on the 4th move, but he found it now when it mattered. So there you have it, and here are the who is playing who. So there you have it. Wesley So is the first semi-finalist. He's waiting for the winner between Carlsen and his opponent. I don't know, for some reason Nepo and Arjun still haven't played, or they have played but they haven't updated the table. Then we have Nihal MVL who will be playing in the quarterfinals, and Nakamura will be facing Caruana in the quarterfinals. So yeah, that's the game and a little bit of info about the match. Hope you guys enjoyed it. It's only the last game. If you have a chance, do watch the entire match. It was really awesome. So, if you manage the time. Maybe when you're at work, so you don't waste time. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Duncan Winecall, Egbert Jan Schierhorn, Olavoy, Adam Decker, the loneliest single guy in the world, and Giuseppe Albano for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.